Hey there, amplifiers. We see all the time technology is changing, and you're seeing things like hacking on the news more and more often. It's important to know where you're at when it comes to your security. And if you're not being focused and proactive, you can be vulnerable to attacks. And today, our guest is really an expert when it comes to cybersecurity and IT technology. Danny Mizrahi is the founder and CEO of Contango IT and the managing director of GRC. Now, he helps with cybersecurity compliance. And what we're going to talk about today are the 5 IT must-haves for cybersecurity compliance. So you want to tune in, take a couple notes, and then make sure that you're being proactive to get things done. Welcome to Growth Amplifiers, Danny.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'll go fast so we can get a lot out of this, pretty quickly. But a lot of people come to me and say, we want to be cybersecurity compliant, right? And we're getting letters, vendor requirement letters from their biggest clients saying, hey, my biggest client sent me this spreadsheet and I don't even know how to fill it out. Or, I'm looking for cybersecurity insurance and they sent me this spreadsheet and I don't know if we do all these things, right? So all of these requirements keep coming. And then all of a sudden the clients say things like you need to be ISO certified and SOC 2 certified. And then you're hearing things like these privacy acts, all over, New York has the SHIELD Act and California has the California Consumer Protection Act and Europe has the GDPR, right? So privacy acts are popping up left and right. It's just getting very, very confusing. And I think, the point of this is to make sure that we're doing all the basics with IT, because the basics with IT and the basics with IT and security happen to be the same as compliance 101. So we want to try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here and just, get some of those basics. So what are those basics? So we, every single vendor requirement letter, third-party compliance checklist, privacy policy, frameworks of compliance and governance, they all have these common denominators. The first one is definitely security awareness training. So people are like, what does that mean? Sorry, Kenny, did you want to jump in?
No, so I'm just thinking that's number one. You want to get trained on what you're really needing to be aware of. And you don't know what you don't know. So if you want to make sure that you're getting aware of what's out there and what to pay attention to, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so, basically most of the bad things that happen are people clicking on an email that they weren't supposed to click on, that Dropbox link that was fake, that Zoom link that was fake. I got one the other day that said, your Zoom subscription has expired. Click here to renew. You currently don't have Zoom. And I had all these meetings that day and I was like, oh man, I almost clicked it right away. And then I was like, wait a second, I've been trained to make sure to know who the sender is and where that email is actually coming from, right? So security awareness training covers things like what does a real website look like? What does a real email look like? What does a real link look like? What to do if someone asks you for a wire transfer, looks like your CEO or CFO, et cetera. So security awareness training is really important. And we recommend that for all year round. When you Google something like a phone number, we've seen so many things happen where people call Canon printer support and it's really a hacker, right? Because they just look at the first number that comes up with Google. So how to really identify whether or not it's the right phone numbers, et cetera. So that is definitely, very, very important. Called security awareness training. There's a couple great tools out there. At Contango, we do it for all our clients. It's only $2 per person per month. So they just let it run all year round, which is basically a requirement now for compliance and privacy, as well as just best practices, and really cuts down any kind of major issues you have. The second biggest one, these two really are the most important, is going to be 2-factor authentication. So you've probably seen that with your banks or with, maybe QuickBooks or some of your websites that you go to where you get a text message or you have to use an authenticator to get into your email, to get into that bank account, et cetera. It's a requirement across the board now. You have to do it. It's super important. If I run a dark web report and look at your email addresses for your whole company, I guarantee if it's anywhere close to 5 years or older, your email address, I will be able to tell you your password. It happens all the time and people think it's hilarious, right? So, that's why 2-factor authentication is so important, because people use the same password everywhere, right? Unfortunately, that's just common. And so they're using it at all these websites that have gotten hacked. right? There was a Dropbox hack and a House hack and a Wayfair hack and all these hacks and Target or whatever, and you get all these passwords, and I can see them now on the dark web. So you got to use two-factor authentication, not just for email, the files, the banking, all of that stuff. The next one is encryption. So I love, when people say, well, I don't have to encrypt my laptop because there's a username and password on it. They're like, no, hold on. If you take out the hard drive from that laptop and plug it into my machine, I'm just going to look at all the data. And people are like, you could do that? I'm like, yeah, the hard drive needs to be encrypted, right? So you got to have those hard drives encrypted. The other thing with encryption is encrypted messaging, right? So what does that mean? You've probably gotten an email like your tax return where you have to click on a link and it goes to a secure portal. So you have to log into that secure portal. And then, so that's what encrypted messaging is too. So what it does is, and if you use Office 365 or if you use G Suite, it basically has those features. You just need to know how to turn them on, right? So, those features make it so that if you put by accident personal identifiable information, PII, like social security numbers, date of birth, things like that, if you put those in an email, it will automatically encrypt it, right? That's very important. Or you could do something with encrypted messaging like a keyword. That keyword could be the word confidential in the subject, and it'll automatically encrypt that message as well. The other area that we think is super important is really owning all the machines and monitoring all the machines and having maintenance on all of the machines, right? So as an IT provider, we put these agents on all of our clients and their end users' machines that's making sure it's being patched. A lot of people say, what's a patch, right? A patch is like Windows updates, right? Or updating your Mac, right? Those are called patches, and everything needs a patch. Adobe needs a patch, and Microsoft needs a patch, and Windows and Macs need patches. The antivirus has to be monitored and monitored and monitored, because with antiviruses and with firewalls, you monitor both of those because the latest patch, it protects you against the latest threat, right? So you have all these new threats over and over and over, and if you don't have the latest patches or updates to protect you on those threats, then you're not even protected. So we say you're only as good as your last update or your last patch when it comes to security, right? So monitoring the health of the machines, monitoring the locations of the machines sometimes, being able to remote wipe those machines if you lose them because it has sensitive data on it, or that's a requirement from your big clients. Your big clients, nowadays, especially if they're public companies, if they send you data, they want to know what's going on with that data now for privacy reasons. They have to, it's a compliance requirement. Last but not least, for some of the advanced users, we do user behavior monitoring. So number 5 would be actually seeing if people are dragging and dropping huge amounts of folders into a new location, or if someone escalates their privileges, right? All of a sudden, someone says, I just went from a standard user to an admin user, and now I have access to the financial folders, right? So you want to be alerted. Or how about, this is the first time this user ever put in a USB stick into the computer, right? Why are they putting a USB stick into the computer? You can call them and say, hey, what are you doing? Or deleting. A lot of times people, sometimes it's by accident, delete a huge folder of data. It's really important, right? Sometimes it's on purpose, but sometimes it's by accident, right? You want to be alerted for some of those things, right?
Hey there, this is Kenny from Growth Amplifiers, here to ensure you get your awesome ideas into action to grow and improve your business and achieve your full potential. Take the first step by visiting growthamplifiers.com and clicking the Start Here button. Take the assessment to get your personalized score. Then select from free resources to learn how to improve your score. Don't wait. Be proactive and take action now by visiting growthamplifiers.com and clicking the Start Here button. And always keep on amplifying. Now, let's get back to the show.
So, between those 5 things, you're really in pretty good shape. Now, compliance also has a lot of policies and procedures and things like that, and we could always get to that, and, companies like ours can write those up. But at the end of the day, you've got to nail basic IT 101 because it's going to be a requirement, and it's really good for your business. And it helps you grow, by the way.
I can recall watching a Forensic Files episode. And in that Forensic Files episode, it was actually, I believe it was a security company, but they had one of their high-ranked engineers, software engineers, get disgruntled, and he copied files and basically hacked the thing. And it's like, all right, I'm leaving, going to the competitors, and just completely took down the business. I mean,
sometimes they take the whole database and take their sales playbooks and, who knows, right? Proprietary information.
So it's something you might not, and I wouldn't necessarily think about it. I even watched the episode, but I'm kind of like making sure. I really like your holistic approach at looking at, it's not just, hackers, but it's all the different aspects to pay attention to, that if you're not making sure that you're holistically covered, you could run into big problems. So with all this stuff to pay attention to, what is a good thing for someone to do that would be really helpful? I think it's a little overwhelming to even know where to get started.
Well, you got to talk to someone who knows what they're doing. I mean, obviously, I think we know what we're doing. We are, on the Inc. 5000, fastest growing companies in America. We are compliance experts, whether that's SOC 2, we're the auditors for ISO 27001, we're the auditors for the PCI Council, credit cards. So anywhere from like that day-to-day IT support all the way to cybersecurity and compliance, we would love to help with, even if it's second opinion or advice or brainstorming together. So, talking to someone, whether it's me or a peer that's in the business, doing an IT audit or an IT assessment to see where you stand today and what are some of that low-hanging fruit, right? If you could button up that low-hanging fruit and, just those 5 things that I mentioned are like 95 to 99% of the threat, right? You could sprinkle things in there like a disaster recovery solution. You could sprinkle things in there like, policy management and swapping out machines and, mobile device management is getting really hot, right? How much data is on mobile devices now? So you could sprinkle a little bit more in there, but at the end of the day, I highly recommend getting an audit done by a professional IT company. We don't charge for an initial consultation to review what you currently have and talk about things like that. I'm happy to do that at any time. And, my contact info, I don't know if you're going to pull it up but it's a DM, Danny Mizrahi, DM at contangoit.com, contangoit.com. But that's the best way to reach me is through email. Happy to set up a call and see if we can help get some of that low-hanging fruit done, even if it's second opinion or advice.
All right. So definitely, I suggest doing that. Just take a moment, visit their website. And again, the email is dm at contangoit.com. Really helpful. It just simplifying it down to you just need to know a handful of things and you got a majority of yourself covered. But don't wait until you're in trouble to start being proactive. Be proactive, get yourself set up, make sure that you're doing the right things. I know it can be overwhelming. I know it can seem like it's so many different things. But when you work with a trusted advisor, they could definitely help you simplify and get yourself set up so that you don't have to worry about all the details. You just need to be focused on taking care of the most important things. Danny, thank you for joining in. I appreciate having you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And I appreciate your mission to help people feel more secure and safe.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, Growth Amplifiers, if you're interested in continually amplifying your business, make sure to go to growthamplifiers.com, subscribe to our podcast or YouTube channel. And if you have ideas for thoughts that would be great to have on Growth Amplifiers, please let us know. Thank you very much. To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com. Thank you for your support.